Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about a horrible thing that happened last night in the Pittsburgh area, Kennywood theme park. There was a shooting.
Yep.
So we've been talking about the escalation of violence in theme parks, and this one definitely, there's a little bit of thunder here. This one kind of hits home because this is our closest theme park. This is one we have annual passes.
It was just funny because when you said that, it was like we've been talking about the escalation and theme park and violence, and then a big thunder went boom right after you said it.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, but it was like the timing. It's like it makes it so ominous.
It was a dark and stormy night. It is ominous. It is heartbreaking. There was a shooting at the Fall Fest pass holder opening.
Yeah,
event last
so
night.
Kennywood does Phantom Fall Fest, which is kind of like their version of Halloween Horror Nights. It's not up to the same scale, but they do a lot for it. You've been there once, and it was
Yeah,
pretty,
it was pretty good. We were actually, this is what's scary. We were going to go to this last night.
Yeah, we're annual pass holders for Kennywood. Neon was going to take the kids and go over. I'm not really a Halloween Horror Nights, Halloween type person. So he was going to take the kids and go, but then because there was too much work going on, we didn't get to. And the kids were bummed about it.
Yeah, so they were very bummed about it. Now we're not. Now we're very grateful, but it's a tragedy. We're gonna talk about this because it's not just Kennywood.
No, this is an ongoing thing.
I mean, all summer long we have been covering all these brawls and fights in theme parks and shootings and stabbings.
Well, what's funny is Kennywood, they actually put in we're talking about the theme parks. They're talking about all these chaperone policies because of all the stuff that happened at Disney Springs and at Universal and at the mall down in Orlando and different parks. I think Carowinds got something.
Yeah, Carowinds got it.
They were talking about how they're doing these chaperone policies. Kennywood actually had a chaperone policy in place of May of last year before this stuff started happening.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about this because there's actually more information from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, but we'll give our 2 cents on it. Not that it really matters a whole lot.
But you were almost there.
Almost there, and definitely thoughts and prayers to the families of those affected. I don't know what's going on.
People got shot, but no one died.
Nobody died,
and they're expecting to make a full recovery. So I want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah,
no one, was that harmed. They were injured, and there were people that were injured from gunshots, and then there were some people that they said trampled type. I'm assuming people got scared and were running, and they might have fallen and gotten trampled on or different things.
Well, of course. I mean, you hear gunshots, you're gonna run. Check out piratesandprincesses.net. That's Geeky's objective theme park blog, and we've been talking about this all summer. We've done videos on Clownfish TV. Being avid theme park goers. Talking about the uptick in violence and just people losing it. I mean, there have been multiple brawls. And I don't think it's a class thing. People have tried to say it's a class thing. It's like, no, the theme parks are more expensive than they've ever been. This was last night, West Mifflin, PA. They kicked off their Halloween offering, Phantom Fall Fest for pass holders. The event ran from 6 to 11. However, around 10:50, police responded to reports of shots fired. There were 3 people shot, including a 39-year-old who was shot in the leg, a 15-year-old who was shot in the thigh, and another juvenile who had a graze wound. There were others injured.
That's at least what I heard as when I wrote this article. You said the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette has some stuff.
Yeah, so they just put this article up, like an hour ago, not even an hour ago. Kennywood memories turn into chaos and fear for Phantom Fall Fest attendees after the shooting.
Kennywood's a really, really, really cool park. It has a lot of really old style coasters and things in it, and they have new stuff. It's a good mix, and I grew up going to Kennywood all the time.
Yeah, Kennywood, it is. I would put it up there with Knoebels Grove. Pennsylvania actually has a lot of old style.
But they're cool. Parks. People come from all over just to go to Kennywood. They come
from all over the world to ride some of the coasters, and they said that people have happy memories of Kennywood, and it changed. Well, they had unfortunately they had one of the rides killed somebody. I think it was a Whipper. Was it the Whipper? The roof.
Oh,
blew
that
off
was because there was a tornado or a microburst. That was a long time ago.
That was
like
what? Ago.
15 years ago, something like that.
Was it that long?
It was a long time ago.
I do remember that. But Saturday night, in the aftermath of here we go with the thunder again. It was a dark and stormy night. In the aftermath of a chaotic shooting during the park's Phantom Fall Fest, police say 3 people were shot inside the park. Others were injured while fleeing.
Right, the gunfire. That's what happened at Universal Orlando too. I think people got hurt no one got shot, but people got hurt because they thought they heard a gunshot.
Yeah. So they're talking about Stephanie Moss, who is talking during this article. You're going to have to excuse the thunder if you can hear it. Ms. Moss's family had to hide because they didn't know whether it was safe to be out in the open, leave the park. Now the family may never return. It was chaos.
Sad.
No one knew what was going on. My children were so scared they don't even want to go out in public and certainly don't want to go back to Kennywood. I don't blame them. It's not their fault.
But I understand that because before we took our kids out and put them in cyber school, there was how many calls? It was constantly calls or threats that so there was a shooter in the building. And they wouldn't tell the kids anything, but they would have them like go to the cafeteria, hide under the desks.
Yeah. I actually went in to get Squid King. We had a doctor's appointment.
No, you went in to get Pinky Boo.
But then Squid King texted me and said, hey, I just want you to know I love you. There's potentially a school shooter, and the schools were next to each other. The elementary and the middle school were next to each other. So I went flying over. And I went in and I said, hey, I'm getting my kid.
Well, you went to get him anyway because there was lots of women, but you got her first.
Yeah, but I'm like, I'm taking my kid, and they weren't going to let me take it.
When you said to the person at the elementary office, you said about it, and their comment was, he's not supposed to be on his phone anyway.
He's not supposed to be on his phone.
I'm like, that's your comment on this?
That was the comment. So,
but there's other kids. I know a couple kids end up in therapy because there were so many instances. These kids were so constantly living in fear that they end up going to therapy because of it, because they were constantly being afraid to go to school because they kept having these like live shooter things going on where they'd lock the kids down.
I mean, this is the thing. We talked about this before. The difference. When we went to school, there were a lot of fights. I got into a lot of fights. I've mentioned it before, but I was always in fights. There were fist fights, though. And after Columbine, everything changed, and then it's just kids today are living with a whole nother level of fear that we really never had to deal with. I mean. Yeah, Russia could blow us up at any point in time. We had to, get under the desk because that was going to help. If they drop a nuclear bomb, that was going to stop it. But like kids today are living with a whole nother issue. And then you can't even go to the theme park now. I mean, they almost had a shooting at Disney Springs.
Well, this was interesting right here. They're talking about how this lady went with her 14-year-old and her 8-year-old. Mm. And they said that, when they've gone to other trips, they said there was teenagers that they went their own way. They said Saturday was different. There were several clusters of 20 to 30 teens that were regularly running through the park. Well, the next thing is, how did they get in without the chaperones?
Yeah.
They said that sometimes they were purposely bumping into other patrons.
Probably trying to pick their pockets or something.
I don't know. They were super aggressive. Pickpockets. What is this, like 1800s?
Yeah.
They were super aggressive. There was a lot of line jumping. They would deliberately run into people and then make fun of them when they reacted. That sounds like what happened at Disney that one time. The one guy punched the kid and he got trespassed.
Yeah, we did a video on that. That was one of our videos talking about theme park brawls, and it was in was it Toy Story Mania?
Yeah,
and they were being like that, and he just got sick of it and said, "Hey, knock it off." It was Jude's first time at the Halloween event. The Mosses weren't sure how long they might stay when the scarier attractions started after dark, but when the youngster enjoyed the thrills, they decided to remain in the park. Just after 10:30, while her husband and son were waiting in line to ride the Jackrabbit, which is wicked.
My dad used to sit behind me on that thing and literally hold my belt, my pants, the whole way in the seat because the belt wouldn't hold me in, and I almost flew out of the
God, those wooden coasters are wicked. I'm not a fan. Anyway, the real trouble began. Ms. Moss said initially a group of 20 to 30 people ran past, but she wasn't sure whether there was a real cause for concern until an older couple told her there were reports of shots fired. Suddenly, a massive swell of what Ms. Moss estimated at over 100 people fled past in panic, pushing and shoving as they headed toward the exit tunnel.
Yeah, and you have to go through a tunnel to get in and out. So that's not going to help.
No, and it's a very cramped tunnel. Since it looked like you could easily be trampled, Ms. Moss said she and her daughter ran into the shadows behind the skyrocket near a Dippin' Dot stand. I know exactly where she went. That set off several minutes of fright and confusion during which a park employee told them to stay in the park because there was a shooter in the parking lot.
Yeah, when you see the video with the ambulance, that was in the parking lot area, you could tell.
Yeah. And then returned to tell them to flee to the picnic pavilion area for safety. Well, that's just it. If it happened in the parking lot, I'm like, how'd they get a gun in? Because I know the security.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
Well, yeah. So we're still not sure whether there was a shooting. Well, there was. Ms. Moss and Sadie became separated at one point. Oh my God, she runs faster than I do. She fell, ripped her jeans, and bruised her knees. After a minute or two, Sadie heard her mother's frantic calls They were
And
reunited.
this girl's 14.
Yeah.
That's like almost the same age as Pinky Boo.
I know.
I'm trying not to cry. I'm sorry.
Could have been us. I mean, that's what's scary. I mean, we were supposed to go. We were gonna go.
I just understand how upset and scary it must be to these parents.
Meanwhile, her husband and son huddled behind a tarp near the Jackrabbit with the young mother and her baby for several minutes.
Oh my God.
The woman had become separated from another child, and Mr. Moss eventually sent a park worker to help her. Throughout, the parents were...
I hope if she found her other kid.
The parents were talking by cell phone to exchange information. Ms. Moss said a police officer found her and her daughter in the pavilion area and directed them to the exit where another officer was herding a much calmer crowd through the tunnel. Ms. Moss said her family went through very thorough security when they entered the park, contrary to some other visitors' accounts from social media.
That's what I understand. They have to Kennywood's, credit. They do. They have security. They have, a chaperone policy in place and all this stuff. I mean, I wouldn't think twice to go there, even though I know there's been incidents in the past, not to this level.
Not like this.
But I wouldn't think twice about going there, because I know that they do all that.
She said it was disappointing. The park didn't seem to have a coordinated plan in place on how to react to a shooting. Why? I mean, unfortunately, you have to think about it in this day and age, but like, if you've never dealt with anything on that level before, the Kennywood actors were fleeing the scene, had no information for patrons. It's frustrating. There should have been a way for them to communicate with people about what was going on. If something like that happens in schools, they usually have a plan. The Mosses, who had been looking forward to celebrating Jude's 9th birthday at Kennywood at the end of the month, don't know when or if they will return.
Well, it's not open again until the 30th because it's closed today because of the police investigation. And since it only pretty much does it on the weekends, because of it's off season,
Fridays,
it won't be open again until the 30th. So if you have a ticket for the 25th, because a lot of people bought tickets for today because this was the first official opening day for everybody that wasn't a pass holder, those tickets will be honored for other dates of the park opening for the Halloween.
Yeah, this is I don't even know what to think anymore. I mean, it's this year especially, like, everybody is going effing crazy. Like, I mean, there have been so many. I mean, look, there's always been kind of a threat of there, being a shooting. Of course, we know in Orlando, it was the Pulse nightclub a few years ago, unfortunately. But that was supposed to actually happen, I guess, in Disney Springs, and the shooter wound up going to the nightclub instead. But they caught somebody not too long ago. There were fights at Universal.
There's been fights at the parks just in general, like all over the place. And then there's all these parks. It's like every time you turn around, there's another. Usually it's a fight, not usually involving a gun. But you keep hearing about these fights and these, and it's almost always teens. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm like...
I don't know if the shooter's a teen here. I don't know.
Well, she said that there were groups of teens. I mean, it could. I'm thinking, if I had to guess, I mean, this is just my guess. If I had to guess, it's probably rival groups of teens got into it. It escalated in the parking lot, and then somebody pulled out a gun.
Yeah, they're saying here, Attractions Magazine editor and publisher Matt Roseboom said that the fights were extremely rare. Yeah. It just, and it is a lot lately. I mean, we're talking, this is what we do. This is what we cover. And
every couple of years you'd hear something.
But not like this. Not like just this last year,
fights,
especially. Now, like I said, Kennywood had their chaperone policy in play May of last year because I think they had a couple issues, but nothing to this level.
Yeah, so he said, people are uptight. They're on edge with COVID. They're just now getting out. This is the first full summer. People are finally getting into the parks after a couple of years. Of course, short-tempered adults and unruly teenagers aren't a problem exclusive to theme parks. It's everywhere. Everybody's like, the pandemic broke us. Like, I mean, it's just like, it just like broke everything. And people are still broken and dealing with it. And I can't imagine. I mean, I'm just sitting here like, God, thank God it wasn't us, but I can't imagine what the families went through, I know, I agree. I'm just sitting here like, just listening to the mom talk about it. And they said, changing something right back to this again, though. They said that one of the reasons Walt Disney decided to do Disneyland was because back then, the amusement parks had a reputation of drawing rough weekend crowds of drunken sailors, unsupervised juveniles, and young toughs. And it usually caused fights and brawls. So then, that's one of the reasons that he designed and did Walt Disney World, or Disneyland, I'm sorry, because he thought they were unimaginable places filled with a rowdy element, and he wanted to change that. Yeah, but I mean, it's horrible. It's awful. I don't think this is going to be a last incident like this, unfortunately.
No.
And hopefully everyone recovers quickly. Hopefully Kennywood, figures something out to make sure that this doesn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see
again.
Kennywood, this damage Kennywood too much, because it's one of the few amusement parks that are left that are like the old amusement parks.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of them left. Kennywood's one, like you said, Knoebels Grove and VA is
Knoebels.
one, and it's a good park. It really is. I used to go there all the time when I was a kid, and that's our closest one now. And I would really hate to see anything bad happen to it, because I know they do try. So that's what I don't. It's just a horrible thing.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this one up.
Yeah.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.